Welcome back to our second of 5 videos for our Saturday the 13th of April sale here at Manor Park Classics. And if you want to watch a video of two chaps talking about old Willys, this is the content for you. Now, pre-war cars, who better than my favourite pre-war presenter, George. George, what have we got today?
Well, thank you for that introduction. I don't know why you stuck short of the word, you missed a bit off. This is called an Overland, made by Willys, an American company, and built in the traditional style that lots of manufacturers, not only in America, but in Britain and probably in Europe as well, made this style of tourer. 4-seater with a 4-cylinder engine, probably would go at about 50 miles an hour. And if you look at the car, it's in great original condition. This is a kind of car that a lot of people get a lot of fun out of and enjoy owning a car like this. It's got some interesting features. Looking at the wheels, which a number of them have, they're called artillery wheels.
Can I look at these, Fraser?
These
beautiful oak spokes, aren't they?
Well, so these are artillery wheels, and as you can see, the spokes are made of oak, and then the rims are bolted on with these nuts. So you just took the rims off, put on a new tyre, and away you went. It tells you how it changed from the days of horse and carriages. They were still making some of the parts with the old traditional style of making wheels. Come in and have a look at the car.
Because this is the thing, so we know Willys obviously is the manufacturer of the Jeep. This car, believe it or not, ladies and gents, is 103 years old and looking remarkable for it. But what's lovely about this is you're now in the point where the controls are pretty much in the traditional position. So I've driven veteran cars where the stuff just lay where it fell. But by this point, by 21, you've got a steering wheel, you've got an accelerator, you've got a brake and a clutch. So you don't necessarily need any special skills to drive cars of this era, do you? You could recommission this and actually use this.
Well, you could, and what's really nice about it is, and I looked in it, it actually does have it ABC, accelerator, brake and clutch. Sometimes they have the accelerator in the middle.
Yeah.
And that is a nightmare. I mean, Lagondas did it, and first time I drove one of those, I thought, where the hell is the accelerator? It was in the middle. But no, this is a beautiful car, simple coachwork, able to go anywhere. And you have to remember, the roads in America in the 20s, a lot of it was cart tracks.
Yeah.
Right? There was no motorways
So
like
they were tough, weren't they, these old things?
They would be used for everything. You can imagine putting in here if they went to the shops, you know, they'd put everything in from the store, whatever it is. They're a great, strong car. But there's lots of cars in America made like this. Dodge made them, obviously Model A Ford, the Model T Fords, and some of the cars behind here, which we'd like to show you now.
But we should talk about value on this, because if you've got a car that's a veteran car, so anything pre-1904 that's eligible for London to Brighton, the price of those cars is stratospheric, is it? 6 figures, 7 figures in some cases. But the stuff that comes immediately after, so you go from veteran to vintage is what this is, so a 20s car, 103 years old, you could buy this for 5 or 6 grand on Saturday, couldn't you?
Yes, I mean, that's the kind of value they are. A bit less now than they were probably some 25 years ago. I mean, I had friends of mine that had Humbers and the like, and they'd be fetching probably £12,000–14,000 in those days. They could take it on a rally that used to go between Manchester and Blackpool, and you'd have 8 or 9 cars, all from that era.
Yeah, I love that. So 5 or 6 grand if you fancy that. A Willys Overland. Moving on to this. Now this does need a little bit more work. That needs a recommissioning, but it's all there. This, if we're honest, George, this is a full restoration. This has slatted wood roof. If you look around here, Fraser, I think budget for some tyres at the very, very least when you're recommissioning this car. But in terms of patination and everything being there, what a thing. So this is a 1926 Buick Master 6 sedan. Requires, I think it's fair to say, full restoration. Although I'd be really tempted, because the body's actually very straight, isn't it? I'd be just tempted to do all the mechanics, take the body off the pan, do the pan, the wheels, the tyres, the engine, and leave that body and just put a roof on it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the style of these cars, I mean, this was in the days when this would have been a very expensive car. I haven't actually been able to find out how much it was when it was new, but for sure, it's a big sedan, you know, with the whole kind of aspect of it. 6-cylinder engine in the front. Just look at those amazing headlamps on the front. I mean, they're almost like you'd see them on a steam train in America at the time, because, you know, they were like that. And people wonder, what's this mascot on the top? Well, it's actually not a mascot. It's actually a temperature gauge. Yeah. So, you know, in case you thought it was going to boil over if you were going through the desert or wherever in America, you'd peer out there and that would be.
Very cool Long Beach, California sticker as well. And Drew, I mean, look at this. Look at the way this is weathered. Isn't this beautiful? Yeah. Drew Pritchard would break out into a cold sweat if he could see this, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's got 1949 on that.
What was that like, 1949? Was it good?
I was 4 years of age.
So you were around, yeah.
Yes.
Rationing was still in effect? Yeah.
Just a bit, yeah. Yeah, not too much in Southport. But have a look in.
Have a look at the roof as well, Fraser. You can see the roof definitely needs, that has gone. It's gone back to the elements.
I thought you'd approve that as a form of air conditioning.
Well, it would keep you cool, wouldn't it?
What?
But all the slats are there. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does need a lot of work and love, but your difficult bits, your metalwork, is actually in extraordinary condition.
Yeah.
And then coming from California, one can understand why.
Yeah, yeah. But you see, what you might find that somebody with this, I mean, the engine obviously needs recommissioning, but you might find that somebody, particularly in America, there's a magazine that you can buy lots of these parts. You probably can get most of these engine parts and maybe even put a slightly later engine in and have a lot of fun with it.
Do you know what would be really, really cool to do with this? Hot rod it.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, yeah.
And what's nice about this is no reserve. You could buy this for a few grand, couldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And nobody's really that precious about this stuff, are they really? So you're not going to massively offend anybody.
No.
So here's my advice. Roof chop, some kind of big V8, big jag axle on the back, bit of extra reinforcement in it. That would look awesome.
Have you not got enough projects already before you start?
Wouldn't that look brilliant though?
Of course it would.
So
There's a man with a great imaginative mind that's always going to be like that.
The car I'd really like to hot rod. I know it's very sacrilegious, but I think enough of these get restored. So this 1936 Alvis, which is a very pretty car. So have a look at this. This really is the definition of needs everything, this, George, isn't it? It's a 1936 Alvis, Silver Eagle Cross and Ellis Sixlite Saloon. Tell me about that as a model, George. So pre-war, I'm not that hot on pre-war stuff, which is why I've got you, my learned colleague here, to put me right.
Well, the interesting thing about this particular car is, with the research that we've done with it, it spent all its life not 40 miles from here. It was originally sold by a dealer in Liverpool, which was called Watson's. I think they used to sell Austin's as well. And it was then owned by a number of people that have lived in the Birkenhead and the Wirral area. It's been off the road for many years and is in need of great amount of work doing to it. Body's great and all of that. But there is a company called Red Triangle down in Coventry who have been looking after Alvis's since Alvis stopped making cars in 1967, and they would be able to help enormously. Most of it is there. The engine definitely needs a lot of work and there's some bits missing from it. But these particular bodies, Ellis and Cross and Ellis, should I say, there's only about 16 of them were made in 1936. So it would be worth doing. And there are people, I've seen cars like this go through auction before in worse states than this, and believe me, worse states than this, and they've taken those projects on. And if somebody was to do this, I would say SOS, it's a car that's been saved.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to see. They are very, very attractive. They're good, strong engines with it that goes in them. And Alvis, they've just always had a good name for making quality cars, whether it's a Charlesworth body or Van den Pla body and other various makes that they used at the time. So yeah, it says no reserve, 121, the lot number.
There you go. So if you're feeling brave, if you're a bit good with a welding torch or an upholstery, it needs everything. And as George says, the engine block is the correct engine block, but not all of the internals are inside. So do budget significant amount from that, but you would have a very, very special car if you did. Moving on, George, to this. Now we're talking about cars in much more complete form. Obviously, everyone's familiar with the group REO Speedwagon, but not everyone has seen the car that it's named after, have they? So this is REO, isn't it? This is where it comes from.
Well, it kind of does. It stands for Ranson O. Mobile, or Oles, and he was a car manufacturer in America at the time and didn't survive for very long. But they made some, again, quality cars. Now, if you look at this, it's a very, very elegant saloon or sedan
Beautiful
car. The whole thing about it, if you look at it closely, it's just beautifully designed. The wind deflectors, the way the lamps are in here, the air vent, and the engine that's under here, which we haven't had a look at yet.
So does it run, this one, George?
Not at the moment.
Do you think it would need... I mean, the nice thing about these old engines is they've only got about 25 moving parts, haven't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's overhead. There's a nice thing with this. There's some little clips here, which if you want to do the tap it, you just lift that up.
You get inside?
You get inside.
Get your shims underneath.
There you go.
Oh, look at that.
So there you can see.
That's what, so I say, pre-war knowledge, my knowledge on pre-war stuff's pretty poor, but I've got friends that work on this stuff and they say, what's lovely about it? Everything's fixable, everything's adjustable.
Yeah,
It's very much a Sunday morning tinker car, this, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, there's good, strong cars. This is what they call the autofac. It's the way that it fuels the petrol through to the carburettor. Some people might get rid of that and put a petrol pump on it. You can see the drive there that drives the fan round, the dynamo that starts it, and there it is. look at that great big steering rock and everything. Klaxon type horn here. It's complete.
They're massively over-engineered, these things. This came over in 2017. It's got all of its state of Wisconsin certificate of title. So it hasn't been yet registered in the UK, but it has all the paperwork to allow you to do that, doesn't it?
But
so,
just, I mean, come round here and just have a look at
in there.
Just come and have a look at this
Being
in
the
here.
svelte chap you are.
I mean, I'll just show you inside here. I mean, it's almost like, if you look inside here, look at how beautiful this is inside. Great big leather, the steering wheel here, aluminium with the wood rim. You know, I'm used to see things like that on Bugatti Royales and things like that.
Look at these quarter lights. You've got a beautiful beveled edge. Look at this, Rose, as well. You've got this incredible beveled edge here, and then hand engraved glass with this floral detail on. This must have been an expensive car, I'd imagine, back in the day.
And looking inside, you can see there's plenty of leg room. You can imagine, you know, if you were going out in a big city like Los Angeles, New York, and you were going to a ball or something like that with all the dresses. It's got the privacy blinds. It's still in beautiful condition up above. It's just a really lovely car, and it just shows you the detail they went to. Just, I mean, the small things, the way the handles, you know, with the black inlay, the beautiful way the windows wind up and down. You know, it's just a really quality. This reminds me of looking at a tram or something like that with a lever there, but it's a beautiful car.
So again, it's 4.26 cylinder. We'll think that'll recommission up and register nice and easily, but that's not going to be an expensive car, George. That's another £5,000 to £6,000 car.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say about all these cars is they deserve another life.
Yes,
right.
Very much.
They've got this far, and you know, yes, one or two need an enormous amount of work doing on them, but in other cases they don't. And this leads us on to what is obviously a very popular car, which most people might know, is a Model A Ford.
Now we should talk about this motor because do you remember when Porsche brought out the 944 S2 and there's lots of advertising blurb and marketing material saying this is one of the biggest four-cylinder engines ever, because that was a 3 litre, do you remember? Quite a lot, you know, each individual cylinder is very big. This is a 4-cylinder and it's a 3.3, so it's a lot bigger than the Porsche was. So this is a robust, I mean, look how simple this is. Just come in here, Fraser. I mean, I'm a bit of a mechanical numpty. Even I could fix that. Look, you can access your plugs, your wiring. These are very straightforward cars. This is a 1929 Ford Model A Sport Coupe. Really nice details, this, including a full rumble seat on the back. Again, it's all part of the same collection, George, isn't it? So it's got the 3.3, it's got the opening windscreen. But tell me about this, because I adore this. This is fabulous.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that the Model A came about after the Model T. The Model T was built, and they built something like 15 million of them and stopped producing them in 1927. So by then, Ford needed to come out with a newer model, and this was the Model A, of which over the next 4 years they made about 4.8 million of them.
So now getting parts not an issue?
Well, no problem at all. Absolutely not, even probably in this country. But the interesting thing about it is that the Model T had about a 20 brake horsepower engine. It would do about 45 mile an hour if we were brave. This has 40 brake horsepower and will do probably 65 mile an hour. And these are very, very popular in this country. People, not the model that they can use, they do the Land's End trial and things like that. They're really very strong and robust cars. But you know, this is a car that would be a treat to actually just recommission it and drive it as it is.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Cause a sensation wherever you are. Look at that beautiful mascot on the top. I've been trying to work out whether it's a swan or something, but maybe somebody knows a bit more about it.
It's a dying duck.
A duck, you think? Big wings.
If you look at this phrase, this is great. If you are sick of your kids, which I really am sick of mine, put them in the rumble seat, dicky seat, whatever you call them, so you can sit up front in comfort, you and the other half. Put the kids in the back, there you go. And if it rains, they get wet. See, they were right, in the 20s, they knew what they were on with, you see. This is how you discipline children. But what a lovely thing. That's going to be about between £9,000 and £11,000, so cracking value for money. And as George says, because this was a car that basically mobilised America in the late 20s and early 30s, a gazillion places to buy spare parts from. And so many people over here, we can give you some names, addresses of some very clever people. My friend Greg May, Auto Historic, anything 10s, 20s, 30s, veteran or vintage, he's the man. So loads of people can keep that running. And you can buy them for buttons, George, for how much car you're getting.
Yeah.
These cars are 100 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're still so usable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to remember that the evolution of the motor car after the First World War, wars always bring things on in between when a war starts and after. There's no more evidence than that the motor vehicle used in the First World War, there was very few in 1914, but by the time you got to 1918, they were all at it because it was a way to move people along with motorcycles, I must say as well. But this is obviously another...
More aged Willys for you people there sniggering at home. So this one is a 23 Willys Overland, this one, isn't it?
All I'd like to say, thank God my mum's not hearing me say anything like that.
What, that aged Willys?
Exactly.
Can't
right.
be a bit of aged Willys.
Well, no,
so this is a Model 92 Redbird Touring. This again just needs a recommission. She's straight, she's level, she's very pretty. Tell me about this, Joe. I really quite fancy the look of this.
Well, when these cars arrived at our premises here in Morrington about just over a fortnight ago, this would run, but I think it's got a little issue with the fuel starvation. So yes, it wanted to go. It's another one that will need some recommissioning, carburetor, new batteries, and a bit of tinkering about. But it's a lovely, again, on the style of some of the early ones we've seen. But you can see that things are moving on a bit. Obviously, you know, it's again a beautiful car. It's known as, I think it's got something on the back. Is it called a Redbird or something like that? But if you look at the detail with this car, the interior is great. There's even a place here with your armrest, and you know it's just beautifully trimmed. You wouldn't need to do anything to this. And as Paul has already said, he's got plenty of people that you would know that could get this up and running at a fraction of the cost to actually restore the car.
Well, yeah. But it just needs the edges knocking off, doesn't it, really? And you can have some fun with it. I would reckon, George, as well, you know, if you bought any single one of these cars and got it running, register yourself with a filming vehicles company. I'd imagine any production doing any sort of American drama, because the crazy thing is a lot of American dramas or dramas set in America get filmed in England because we've got such a big studio.
In Liverpool.
They do.
Yeah.
So if you are on a register of filming vehicles, I guarantee at some point someone doing a 20s or 30s would get one of these in.
The interesting thing about me and my family was in 1931 or 1932, my grandfather had a Chrysler American car.
He was ahead of his time, wasn't he?
Yeah. And they lived in Southport, and they had premises down in London and in Manchester and up in Scotland. And my father and his father, they used to go out, they were gown manufacturers. So I've always had a little thing about, no pictures.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of my father's cars, but he actually had a Chrysler in 1931.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So this is very, very nice and needs not a lot, just recommissioning. Again, £8,000 or £9,000, you could take that home. So with all these cars, because they've been in the collection, bank on a bit of money just to get them back on their feet. You won't need to spend loads, I don't think, because as I say, the bones are good. Apart from the Alvis, obviously, and the full rest on the corner. But these are cars you could probably get, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks back on the road, don't you reckon?
Yeah, there are a generation of people out there. I mean, I can't remember the name. Was it the Tuckett brothers? I think they're somewhere in the South Hertfordshire area, and they know all about these kind of cars. Because to be quite honest with you, petrol, spark, compression, they'll go.
Yeah, they're pretty simple. They're pretty simple.
You don't have to worry about some of the modern technology or anything like that. As I say, spark, plug, and it'll go.
It's perfect. And moving on to this, I adore this. Now we've gone away from artillery wheels onto the newfangled pressed steel wheel. Well, this is very modern, this one, isn't it? This is a Hupmobile from 23, 101 years old, this.
Absolutely. It's known as a hump. I don't know why, because it's HUM and then they shorten it with 2 P's at the end of it. 2 P's.
Hey, there you go.
No more of that. Absolutely. So, but again, it's beautiful, as you've already said. And again, inside, we'll have a look at the engine.
Oh.
There, look at that.
So it's 4-door, 4-seater, 6-cylinder side valve, this, with the Stromberg updraft carb.
Yeah.
Stewart Speedo. And it's got, you pointed these out earlier, and I love this. I've seen these actually in a picture from Goodwood before. Have a look at these tyres, Fraser. So these no-skid tyres, the tread designer took that very literally, and the tread actually says no skid on them as well.
Can you see that, Fraser?
So this was owned by Kentucky Fried Chicken of McAllister in America. So does this mean if you bought this car, you could take it back to KFC in the UK and get a free bargain bucket?
Do you know, it's a shame really, because in America there's quite a lot of restaurants that now have themed cars.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I've been to a number of them and they're great. And I'd like to think that somebody in England, some of these, you could have it somewhere, I don't know, on the A40 or something like that, have a nice place like the Ace Cafe that you've got obviously on the North Circular, but somewhere on a nice road, and have one or two of these on displays. You could go and have Kentucky Fried Chicken or burgers or whatever it is. What a great thing to have. But again, you can see the style is very similar to some of the other ones there. So obviously you've got the wind deflectors, big 4-seater inside, put the hood down if you want to. And as you say, it's got a lot more modern things with obviously the wheels and the like.
But I understand this also, the shift action on this, the gate action as you go through the 3-speed manual is absolutely stunning. There are cars have been made within the last 10 years that don't shift as nice as this car does. You could buy this, couldn't you? Again, needs recommissioning.
Yep.
5 to 6 grand. Buy it as a curio, like I say, buy it to sit in your restaurant to get everyone excited. But wouldn't it be wonderful to see this back on the road and driving again?
Well, I mean, I think all these cars that we briefly just mentioned before, I don't think it's not like you have to go in to spend fortunes on having bodies remade and the like. And I'm sure if there is some shortage of some of the parts in this country, in America there will be tons of it, because there is. And I think it's called Hemmings Auto Weekly. It's a magazine that you used to be able to buy in England in a place called Foyles in London. They're advertising there. There's thousands of these cars made, and there's still be lots of the stuff will be around. I was in America 18 months ago, and you've only got to go 40 miles outside Los Angeles, and there's still tons of this stuff around in farmyards.
There's all the swap meets and things up there. You go over with a big suitcase, wouldn't you, on holiday? You could bring all the bits back you needed?
It's America is the home of the automobile.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're an enthusiast, they don't throw it away, which is great.
So I think all of these would save beautifully, particularly these ones that just need recommissioning. And again, this car, £5,000 or £6,000, you could be taking this home. I think that's outrageously cheap. I think that's such good value for money.
Well, let's go now and have a look at some more, which I think will just complete the collection of the cars, but they're in the other hall.
Okay, come and join us. You join us in the world famous Mini room. This isn't a Mini, but it is quite a compact little car. Having said that, this is the big 7, isn't it, this?
Bit bigger.
Yeah, not much.
No,
I still don't really fit in it.
And certainly you'll have trouble.
Yeah.
It's got a roof. Slide it back.
Pop my head out the top.
Right,
so this is it, 1938, this one. So things were about to get very, very interesting in the UK in 1938. So this is towards the end of the run, isn't it?
Very much so. I mean, everybody's aware of the Austin 7, which was first made in, I think, about 1923. But obviously, the big 7, the big improvement, was a bit more CC.
Oh, yeah. A massive 900 from the 750.
Yeah, absolutely. And there'd been a version of this before with chrome radiator and the like. And it was very much at the end of its production. And I think Austin were looking forward to sort of making a more modern car. They started to do it with these type of wheels from the earlier ones. It's a big 7. They are a bit quicker. Again, it's got nice patina. We haven't used that.
Beautiful. We haven't.
We haven't used the word patina.
And also, they'll get everyone leaving in the comments. Is it patina or is it patina? Because I think patina's correct, but everyone says patina now, don't they? I think you're right.
Yeah. But is that what happens when you're from south of Birmingham or north of Birmingham?
Patina. Yeah. But if it's on an American car, it's definitely patina.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Anyway, it's still 4-door, a big saloon, and, again, this kind of car that you could have quite a lot of fun in for not a lot of money.
So it does need a recommission, doesn't it? This just needs a little tickle and
It did
flick.
run, but I think, again, a lot of these cars sometimes haven't been used for a while.
Because it actually drove here, didn't it, this one?
It did, but we can't get it going now. But again, original seats, as you can see inside, very austere in many ways. These were cars that were made for a price. It was England's equivalent, obviously Austin and Morris, who wanted to make a sort of fairly cheap saloon, and obviously you've got the Y-type Ford, which was his competitor at the time. Singer had a Singer 10. They all made these kind of cars for people that could afford a car, but didn't have lots of money.
I have to say the bodywork on this is very, very good, isn't it? Tiny bit of surface corrosion in a few places, but there's nothing structural. Like the edges of the doors,
No.
absolutely stunning. And also the hanging of the doors. Come with me, and we've saved the very best till last.
2 to us.
That one, by the way, 4.5 to 5.5 grand.
I know.
Yeah. Is it for nothing, George? For nothing. We're going to do this in one take, Fraser. Come on, let's make him run. And we're finishing on this, the pièce de la résistance.
Well, no, you've got 2 to do in here.
Have I really?
You've got the Lincoln to do at the end.
Oh, yes. The enormous Lincoln. So check this out. This is... Stand back there, Fraser. You do a full wide of this magnificent profile. I'm not talking about me and George, although that is also magnificent. This is a 1929 Graham Paige Model 612 Coupe. Only 12 Graham Pages in the entire country.
Absolutely.
That's a rare old bus.
Yeah, and again, if you just look at it, you can tell it's a quality car.
It's a handsome car, this, isn't it?
Quality car. I mean, everything from just the details with the headlamps, chrome radiator, the lovely badge, radiator cap. Even the hubcaps have got the symbol of Graham Paige in it. The lights on the bulkhead like that, the wind deflector on that, or sun shield, sort of say. It's a fabulous car. And again, you just want to get it up and running.
Now this is nice. So it's been imported. It's got its V5C, so it's properly UK registered. This one came over in 2013. It's only had one owner here in the UK. It's got lovely bricks coachwork. A little bit of micro blistering on the bonnet, but super level old bus. This. It's got the Graham Paige rear lamp and a lovely 6-cylinder side valve engine. This is a 62 brake horsepower flying machine, George. This.
It is. I mean, just so you can have a look inside. I mean, if you look inside. I mean, it's got the lovely Art Deco where all the temperature gauges is. Lovely sort of Bakelite steering wheel. Leather seats that, you know, you just wouldn't want to do anything with. It's just proper old-fashioned American cow hide. It's as tough as anything you want to do. Headlining, interior light.
Aero screen that you can open for a bit of air conditioning.
Absolutely great. And it's a great car. And although it doesn't have a rumble seat, it has an enormous trunk.
Don't do your back in.
No, look at that.
Look at that. So your golf clubs in there, wouldn't you?
Well, no, they'd go off shopping. You know, they put bales of hay in, they put everything in it. But I just think that the manufacturer, Graham Paige, one of the things I love is this backlight here. If you look, it's actually got Graham Paige in it. I bet you in America that lamp would be worth about $400.
It's beautiful.
In fact, if our eyes in this country be 750 quid, that's definitely worth 400. It's beautiful. It's
got the impact absorbing bumpers as well, so you can use it in everyday traffic. That recommission, I think, would be a very usable thing, don't you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
And an utter traffic stopper, and you could buy that for £8,000 or £9,000, I reckon, on Saturday. And think of what you could buy that has that presence that gets everybody talking to you at the petrol pump, because everybody would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
And you get waves and smiles wherever you go for £9,000.
Yeah, but the real smile is on the other ramp over there.
Come on. Come and join us. Check this out. This is enormous.
Oh, hello.
Come with me. Now, I have a 1997 Lincoln Limousine, which is the last of the square shape. If you've watched the Wolf of Wall Street, it's the limo at the start of that. So the granddad of that car is this car. And look, you see how many people are excited about it already, look.
And I know the guys why they're here too.
Look at this. So 1927 Lincoln limo. If you want to go full gangster, this is how you do it. I can see you look like full gangsters, you gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. Been there, done that.
So what's your first impression looking at it?
Fantastic.
It is.
Look at this.
You know how rare it is?
Come and look at this, Fraser.
Very rare.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. So you wouldn't have driven this car, you would have been driven in this. So you'd have had your scarf in the front, and you would have sat in the back in absolute luxury. Look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. So it's currently unregistered. It's supplied with all the importation paperwork. It's very, very easy. If you've never registered a car yourself that's come from another country, as long as you have the correct paperwork, which this one does, it's very simple. It's a 9-litre V8. So if you like a car that shovels with a bit of motor, this is it. Opening windscreen, beautiful patina, however you like to pronounce it. I think as it's American, we can say patina. We're allowed to say that. Lovely pinstripe interior. It's got the sun hood over the windscreen as well. Spare wheel, parabeam headlights, a Walton clock in the rear, because that's when you're sitting in the back on your way to your business meeting in the late 20s. What a thing, George. How did we get this?
Well, it was all part of the same collection, and this does run. I think the video on our website at the moment shows it being driven around here in the car park when it came here a couple of weeks ago.
And have we got the battery cover panel? Have we got
yes, that? I think it should be behind the foot there. Now, the engine about this...
9-litre?
I think maybe a bit. I thought it was only 6.7 or something like that.
It says 9-litre. That's insane. It looks big.
Yeah, it's big, yeah. But the interesting thing about this is that the brief history of it is that Ford obviously had been very successful building the Modern A, and they realised that the market was moving, and they could see other manufacturers, Mercedes, Renault, and other American manufacturers were producing big, elegant cars.
And this is big, guys.
Oh, it is. And Ford, well, Bugatti built the Royales about the same time. But Ford decided that they needed to have another brand that produce these kind of elegant cars. So they bought out a company called Lincoln that had gone bankrupt. And rumour has it that Henry Ford and his wife and his son decided this would be a good way and call it Lincoln, because that was the company they bought, and Lincoln being the president.
Oh, yeah, clever.
So there's lots of things.
Instant class.
Absolutely right. So I think this is known as the Model L, but this being in sort of the limousine style, there's lots of roadsters out there. There's lots of different bodies, of which I just know they fetch really good money in America. Seriously do.
Well, so if you'd be so kind as to shut that, I'm going to shut this door. And Fraser, if you go back there and just get a view. I mean, you mentioned Bugatti Royale there. There's a car that costs so much money, but has so much presence. Look at the presence you get with this. I'm just going to tell you, the guide on this is somewhere between 14 and 16. I cannot think of a car that you could own for that kind of money that would just carve up the road like this.
No, I mean, you have to remember, and in America, you know...
You mind your back?
Oh, it's no problem. I've been doing that for the last 2... You have to remember in America, they've always loved the motor car.
Yeah.
And I think by the time you got into the 20s and 30s, there was lots of sort of celebrities, film stars.
Yeah.
They would be starring with cars, they could afford the cars. No different what we've got today over here. So all those manufacturers, you know, if you could get any famous star of the time in one of these, it was a good form of advertising. But the interesting thing about this particular car is, which I've only just found out,
go on.
It would appear that when you bought this car, to have the radiator nickel plated was an extra $25.
Which is a lot of money in the 20s.
It was, so that was an extra having that done.
Doesn't that still look magnificent though?
It is, absolutely.
I think brushed nickel's all come back again now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
They're using it as a finish on a lot of modern cars now.
Yeah, it's not easy to do though.
No.
Because I know people that restore instruments for aeroplanes, and they always used to have it like that. And then the people wanted to do bright nickel, and it wasn't authentically correct. But this is a truly magnificent car. I hasten to add, in America, if this was up and running, left as it is, it would be probably twice the price that we'll get for it, and maybe more.
So there you go, 14 to 16 if you fancy that. If you've seen anything you like here, there's full photographs, full videos where the cars run. We've got all the book packs. George is here if you want the expert inside line on any of them. But do make sure you've liked and subscribed, you've rang that bell. If you want to come look at the cars, we've got Thursday and Friday for viewing days, and even a bit of Saturday morning before they go through. So do come and have a look, particularly if you're thinking about recommissioning them. Bring your guy down, bring your expert, your mechanic friend, whoever it is. We want you to make sure you know what you're doing. But some potential bargains to be had and a huge amount of fun to be had. We'll see you guys on Saturday. Fun starts at 9.